Hi, I'm Apex and I'm here to introduce to you these two NVIDIA GTX 1080Ti cards by KFA2. They're both called Extreme Overclock because the frequencies on the cards are enhanced to ensure better gaming and rendering performance. Let's quickly have a look at the packaging of the cards and see exactly what we've got in terms of aesthetics. First, we've got the white box here with the green NVIDIA logos and obviously traditional green NVIDIA writing. The white box is going here with the white card and the black box, which is exactly the same, essentially going with the black card, just colour-coded boxes with the product. Both of these cards, in terms of overclocking headroom, cooler performance, out-of-the-box performance, every facet of the card is exactly the same. The only thing that's changed on the cards is the colour of the cooler and the colour of the backplate. This card here, obviously, we'll just quickly look at the aesthetics of it, is obviously black and then black and grey backplate. So this card here would fit into pretty much any system you can imagine, like the monochrome design, black motherboard, black memory with different coloured cables, RGB on the board, all this kind of stuff. However you wanted to personalise your system, this could fit neatly into the background or fit with your colour scheme and not be intrusive at all. This card, however, having a white cooler would fit great with the white and black motherboard, the white memory, maybe possibly the white cables, and so on and so on. The backplate on this card is white and grey, so again, maybe you want to highlight some grey on the system to help coordinate with the card. Okay, now we've briefly discussed the aesthetics of the card. Let's now look at the power delivery. The power delivery on the card is obviously via the PCI Express plot from the motherboard, and you've also got a 6-pin connector here and an 8-pin connector from the PSU here. The GPU itself is powered by 7 phases on the VRM, and the memory on the card, which is 11 gig, is powered via 2 phases from the VRM itself. Both the GPU and memory VRM is highly overspec'd for what's needed, and this means that the card can run very stable, and also the boost frequencies can be reasonably high, and the cards remaining fully stable in operation. Now we've discussed a bit about the aesthetics and the power delivery. Let's actually look at the cooler itself and how it's performing. So we've got the two 90mm fans here, and we've got obviously the cooler mounted to the card here with a 5 heat pipe design. I've noticed the success of this series before in terms of the cooler and made it better. So it's roughly 3 or 4 decibels cooler than the previous version. What that basically means is the card is more stable in operation, cooler and quieter. Also, KFA2, as per usual, have added a backplate, and obviously the function of the backplate is to remove heat, add rigidity, and obviously to protect the BGA when the card's heat cycling through load, rest, very high loads, hot temperature, and so on and so on. So not only does the backplate look good on these cards and is very nice design, it's also helping the cooler to remove heat and also performing the feature of longevity to the card and stopping that warping. Okay, now we've had a look at the cooler, if you like, aesthetics and what's going on in terms of removing the heat with the 5 heat pipes. Let's look a little bit about the size of the cooler. It's a 2-slot design, which means that you can fit these cards in 2, 3 or even 4-way SLI. Now currently most games are only supported in 2-way SLI, although quite a few older titles are working fine in 3-way, but you'll find that NVIDIA are currently recommending that 2-way SLI is the way to go if you're a gamer, or 3 and 4-way SLI if you're a benchmarker or a professional user who can take advantage of the 4 cards for rendering, or the benchmarks are 100% supported and you can score higher in your benchmarks with 3 or 4 cards. But with a 2-slot design that allows for that, no problem. Also, because it's effectively a 2-slot design initially, but the I/O connectivity is kept to a 1-slot design, then if you change the cooler to a water block, the whole card can be made into a 1-slot design. KFA2 have intelligently removed the DVI port on here, which means that if you add a water block, that opens up a multitude of connectivity on the motherboard, which would normally have been covered by the actual 2-slot design via the DVI port. The connectivity on this card is via the I/O here, and it's 3 DVI and 1 HDMI. Okay, so now we've discussed all that, let's go on to the actual performance of the cooler. So to test this, I put the card in the rig, install the drivers, and set benchmarks and stress tests running for around 1 hour, 2 hours to check the actual scores in terms of benchmarks, but also to check the terms of quality of the cooler. And what I found in an office of around 23, 24C, that the card was peaking in terms of temperatures, maximum under load of about 76, which is a delta of around 50, 51 degrees C. And at that kind of temperature, I found that the fans were spinning at around 50% or 52% of their maximum potential, which meant that the card was very quiet, if not quite silent. It was almost silent in operation. Now we've discussed about the quality of the cooler, which I'm sure you'll agree is better than the NVIDIA FE design. Now let's discuss a bit about the performance. So you plug in the card and run everything at stock. What you can expect out of the box is a boost clock of around 1925 to 1950 megahertz. On both of these cards it was the same, and a memory clock of 5600 megahertz, which is what NVIDIA require as a standard stock clock on the memory. And in terms of performance figures, our Firestrike 1080p benchmark was around 24,000, our TimeSpy 1440p benchmark around 11,000, and the Firestrike Ultra 4K performance benchmark around the 7,000 mark. Now the NVIDIA FE card is boosting around 100 megahertz less than these cards, both of these cards in the same configuration, which means roughly it's 500 to 600 points less on all the benchmarks. Obviously those are rough figures because at different resolutions the frame rates are affected differently, but on average around 600-700 points difference you would see over the NVIDIA Founders Edition, which makes these great value for your casual gamer who just wants to plug and play at stock and know that they're truly good performance. For your benchmarker or someone who wants to push the card to the limit, I also tried that myself with these cards, overclocking both the core and the memory and then testing for stability. I kept the fan speed at around 50% just to make sure that for the gamer that the card wouldn't become intrusive in their long gaming sessions. And what I found was that the cards, once overclocked, could go as high as 2025 on the core on both cards. And the memory would go to around 6,100 or 6,150 megahertz on both cards. And that gave our benchmarks a healthy boost. Firestrike was now around the 26K, TimeSpy around the 12K point, and Firestrike Ultra around the 7.5, 7.6K mark. Now this is like 1,500 or 1,600 points higher than the NVIDIA Founders Edition. So again, a healthy boost and free performance for just moving a couple of sliders on any piece of overclocking software that you can find that's compatible with these GPUs, which is a really great performance from such a good value card. If you want to find out more about these cards, please go to our forums where I'll include all the links to the benchmarks and all the appropriate scores, and also if any support's needed I can answer questions there. If you want to buy the product, head over to overclockers.co.uk and follow the link in the description below on our web shop. And that's all for now. Goodbye.